A haunting glimpse in a neon-lit alley unveils a chilling truth behind a child's disappearance. Will justice prevail? Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for our latest thrilling tales. Don't miss what's next. Michelle's breath hitched, the late afternoon sun draping long shadows across the suburban street as she stood rooted, her hands shaking at the news that shattered 12 years of relentless grief. The call had come an hour earlier, a detective's voice sharp yet heavy. "We found Malala's bike, buried under concrete in the old house on Elm Street." Malala, her 6-year-old daughter, had vanished on a bright afternoon in 2013, pedaling her pink bicycle adorned with glittery streamers, her giggles fading into a silence that broke Michelle's world. The nationwide search flyers plastered on every pole, volunteers combing fields, news anchors pleading for leadshad crumbled into nothing, leaving Michelle a shell, her life, a quiet memorial to a child she refused to believe was gone. Now, the discovery of that bike, rusted but unmistakable, entombed in a house just 3 blocks from their former home, ripped open old scars and kindled a desperate hope. Michelle sped to the site, her sedan's tires humming, the radio silent, her mind trapped in that last day Malala's pigtails bouncing, her promise to stay near the driveway. The abandoned house loomed, its boarded windows like blind eyes, vines strangling its weathered walls, yellow police tape snapping in the breeze. Officers swarmed, a forensic team sifting the cracked concrete slab where the bike lay exposed, its pink frame twisted, handlebars warped, a child's drawing taped beneath the seat, its faded colors chilling, a stick figure with a hand reaching from a window, the house's outline hauntingly familiar, like a ghost from their neighborhood. Michelle's stomach twisted. Malala's DNA was confirmed on the bike, a forensic match, but the drawing was a new puzzle, a clue to a horror she couldn't yet grasp. "Mrs. Obama," Detective Elon called, his face taut, holding an evidence bag with the drawing, its crayon lines stark against the plastic. "We're reopening the case. This wasn't an accident." Michelle's knees weakened, hope clashing with dread, her fingers brushing the locket around her neck, a photo of Malala inside. A black van screeched to a halt across the street, its tinted windows hiding watchful eyes, and 2 men in dark jackets stepped out, their strides too purposeful, their gazes pinning her like prey. Michelle's instincts screamed she'd stirred something dangerous. "Get back!" Elon barked, drawing his service pistol, but the men advanced, one brandishing a taser, its blue sparks crackling, the other pulling a knife, its blade glinting in the fading light. Michelle bolted, her purse spilling a photo of Malala, a cherished keepsake, fluttering to the asphalt. She sprinted down an alley, the men's boots pounding behind, their shouts in Vietnamese cutting through the suburban hush, sharp and menacing. The quiet streets turned treacherous, every corner a trap. Michelle's lungs burned, her legs unsteady from years of carrying grief's weight. But Malala's face a wide smile, her trusting eyes pushed her forward. She ducked behind a row of overflowing trash bins, their stench cloaking her ragged breaths, the men's flashlights sweeping inches from her hiding spot. One kicked a bin, metal clanging like a gunshot, and Michelle's hand closed on a broken bottle, its jagged edge cold, a desperate weapon. The taser wielder rounded the corner, his weapon raised, its hum electric in the still air. Michelle lunged, slashing his forearm, blood spraying as he cursed, the taser dropping with a clatter. The second man tackled her, his knife grazing her cheek, a hot sting blooming, but she drove the bottle into his thigh, twisting it, his howl giving her a split second to break free. She ran, weaving through backyards, vaulting low fences, splinters tearing her palms, her coat catching on a nail, ripping. A neighbor's dog barked, its chain rattling, drawing eyes, and Michelle slipped into a vacant lot, weeds clawing at her ankles, her heart a drumbeat in her chest. The men's flashlights faded, their radios crackling with frustration, their voices retreating, but Michelle knew they'd circle back. Elon's voice cut through the street, urgent, calling her name, his squad car's red and blue lights flashing like a beacon. She stumbled toward him, bloodied but unbroken, Malala's photo crumpled in her fist, its edges worn from years of clinging. "They don't want us looking," she gasped, her voice raw, her cheeks stinging, blood trickling. Elon's jaw clenched, his gun still drawn, his eyes scanning the street for threats. "Then we look harder," he said, his tone iron. The drawing's image seared Michelle's mind. The house, the hand, a truth buried with Malala's bike, whispering of a darkness hidden in plain sight. She'd rip this town apart, brick by brick, to uncover it, no matter the blood it demanded, no matter the secrets it would expose. Michelle's hands trembled as she clutched Malala's photo, the creased image of her daughter's smile, a flickering light in the dim precinct office, the air heavy with coffee and stale cigarette smoke. Her cheek stung from the knife graze, her palms raw from splinters, the alley chase still pulsing in her veins. 12 years had passed since Malala, her 6-year-old, vanished on that pink bicycle in 2013, the suburban afternoon turning to nightmare. The discovery of the bike, buried under concrete in an abandoned house 3 blocks away, with Malala's DNA and a chilling child's drawing hand reaching from a window, had torn open the case, and Michelle's heart. Detective Elon, his face lined with determination, pored over the drawing, its crayon lines stark against the evidence bag. "The house in the sketch, it's not the one where we found the bike," he said, pinning a map to the wall, marking a property 2 streets over, once owned by the Carters, a reclusive family who'd left town shortly after Malala's disappearance. Michelle's stomach twisted. The Carters had been neighbors, their son, a quiet teen, often seen watching kids play. She'd never suspected, but the drawing screamed of secrets. Elon's voice was low. "We need to search their old place, but someone's covering tracks. Those men in the alley weren't random." Michelle's resolve hardened. She'd face any threat to find Malala's truth. They drove to the Carter house, a sagging colonial with peeling paint, its yard overgrown. The neighborhood's quiet now, a suffocating veil. Elon picked the lock, the door creaking into a musty interior, dust motes swirling in flashlight beams. Michelle's heart pounded as they searched, her fingers brushing cobwebbed shelves, finding nothing but old furniture until Elon pried up a loose floorboard, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a journal, its pages yellowed, scrawled with cryptic note dates, initials, and phrases like specimen transfer and Elm Street drop. Malala's initials, Mai, appeared beside the date of her disappearance, a cold confirmation of intent. Michelle's breath caught, rage and grief colliding, but a faint noisier creak from upstairs snapped her focus. Elon drew his gun, signaling silence, and they climbed the stairs, the wood groaning underfoot. A shadow moved in a bedroom, and Elon kicked the door, revealing a man in a black jacket, his face obscured by a ski mask, stuffing files into a bag. "Freeze!" Elon shouted, but the man lunged, a knife flashing. Michelle dove, grabbing a lamp and swinging it, the base cracking against his shoulder, the knife skidding across the floor. The man tackled Elon, their struggle toppling a dresser, glass shattering. Michelle seized the knife, slashing the man's leg, blood spraying as he roared, giving Elon time to pin him, cuffs clicking. The bag spilled photos of children, including Malala, and a USB drive labeled Elm Project. Before they could question him, headlights flared outside, a black van screeching to a stop. 3 enforcers burst in, tasers crackling, batons raised, their jackets unmarked but their intent clear. Michelle's pulse roared. She shoved the journal and USB into her coat, grabbing Malala's photo as Elon fired, grazing an enforcer's arm, blood soaking his sleeve. The cuffed man broke free, snatching a taser, and fired, the prongs hitting Elon's chest, dropping him convulsing. Michelle swung the lamp again, smashing the taser, wielder's jaw, bone-crunching, but an enforcer grabbed her arm, his baton raised. She kicked his shin, twisting free, and bolted downstairs, the journal and USB heavy, Malala's fate tied to their secrets. The enforcers pursued, their boots thundering, one firing a silenced pistol, bullets splintering the banister. Michelle crashed through a back door, sprinting into the overgrown yard, thorns tearing her legs. She vaulted a fence, landing hard in an alley, her breath ragged, the van's headlights sweeping closer. A dumpster offered cover, its stench cloaking her, and she crouched, heart slamming, as the enforcer's flashlights danced inches away. Elon's groan echoed from the house. He was alive, fighting back. Michelle slipped through a side street, weaving through parked cars, the USB a ticking bomb. She reached a payphone, dialing a journalist contact, Lynn, who'd covered Malala's case years ago. "I have proof," Michelle gasped, her voice raw. "Meet me at the old library." The Carter house, the journal, the drawing Malala's disappearance, wasn't a lone act, but part of something bigger, darker, and Michelle would expose it, no matter the blood it cost. Michelle's lungs burned as she sprinted through the suburban streets, the journal and USB drive heavy in her torn coat, Malala's photo a crumpled lifeline clutched in her bloodied hand. The old library, her rendezvous with journalist Lynn, was a mile away, its shadowed stacks a faint hope against the enforcers' pursuit. The Carter house raid had confirmed a chilling truth. Malala's 2013 disappearance, marked by her pink bicycle buried under concrete, was no isolated tragedy, but part of a sinister network, the journal's cryptic entries, and the USB's Elm project, data pointing to a conspiracy within their quiet community. Her cheek throbbed from the knife graze, her palms stung with splinters, but the memory of Malala's drawing-a hand reaching from a familiar window drove her forward. The black van's headlights flared behind, its engine a predatory growl, enforcers still hunting after the firefight that left Detective Elon wounded but alive. Michelle ducked into an alley, its air thick with rotting garbage and damp brick, her breath ragged as she crouched behind a rusted dumpster, the van's tires screeching past. The enforcers' radios crackled, their voices sharp in Vietnamese. Barking coordinatesh was a threat they couldn't let escape. Her mind raced. The journal mentioned specimen transfers and listed Malala's initials, suggesting a chilling purpose, while the USB held files she hadn't yet seen but knew were explosive. She slipped through a side street, weaving past parked cars, her coat snagging on a fence, tearing further. The library loomed, its Gothic facade dark, a relic of the town's past. Lynn's car idled nearby, its engine low, and Michelle bolted toward it. But a figure stepped from the shadows, an enforcer, his taser raised, blue sparks dancing. She dove, rolling across gravel, pain flaring in her grazed arm, and grabbed a loose brick, hurling it at his face, blood spraying as he staggered, the taser firing wide, prongs sparking on asphalt. Lynn's car door swung open, her voice urgent, "Get in!" Michelle scrambled inside, the car peeling out as two more enforcers emerged, their silenced pistols flashing, bullets pinging off the hood. Lynn swerved, tires screeching, navigating the town's maze, the van in pursuit, its headlights blinding. Michelle clutched the journal, its pages crinkling, and glimpsed a name, Dr. Carter, the family patriarch, linked to a warehouse on the town's edge. "Head there," she gasped, her voice raw. Lynn nodded, her hands steady despite the chase, her journalist's instinct sensing a story that could shake the world. The warehouse was a hulking shell, its corrugated walls rusted, guarded by a chain-link fence. Lynn rammed the gate, metal buckling, and they skidded into the lot, headlights off. The van roared behind, enforcers spilling out, 5 of them, rifles and batons gleaming under floodlights. Michelle and Lynn dove behind a stack of crates, bullets splintering wood, the air sharp with gunpowder. Michelle's fingers found a crowbar among the debris, its weight grounding her, while Lynn pulled a pepper spray canister, her only weapon. An enforcer flanked them, rifle raised, but Michelle swung the crowbar, cracking his knee, bone crunching, his scream piercing. Lynn sprayed another, his eyes streaming, dropping his baton. They ran, weaving through the warehouse's aisles, its interior a labyrinth of crates and machinery, the stench of oil and mildew choking. A locked office door beckoned, and Michelle pried it with the crowbar, metal screeching, revealing a computer and files labeled Elm Project. Lynn hacked the system, downloading data lists of children, medical records and a chilling term, genetic optimization. Malala's name appeared marked, transferred, 2013, her fate tied to a lab unknown. Alarms blared, red lights flashing, as enforcers stormed the warehouse, their shouts echoing. Michelle grabbed a hard drive, stuffing it with the journal and USB, and they bolted for a loading bay, the van blocking the exit. An enforcer lunged, his baton swinging, but Michelle parried with the crowbar, metal clanging, and Lynn kicked his shin, toppling him. They climbed into a delivery truck, Lynn hot-wiring it, the engine roaring as they crashed through the bay doors, enforcers firing, bullets shattering the windshield. The van pursued, ramming their rear, but Michelle threw a crate of bolts, metal scattering, puncturing tires, the van swerving into a ditch. They ditched the truck in a wooded lot, disappearing into the night. The hard drive a key to Malala's truth. The enforcer's pursuit, a sign the town's secrets ran deeper than Michelle ever feared. Michelle's heart pounded like a war drum, her breath shallow as she, Serena, and Nelson huddled in the dense woods outside Jakarta, the stolen delivery truck's engine cooling behind them, its shattered windshield, a scar from their escape from the Carter-linked warehouse. The hard drive, journal, USB, and Malala's photo pressed against her chest, each a lifeline to her daughter, lost since 2013 when her pink bicycle vanished, later found buried under concrete, with a child's drawing a hand reaching from a window, a clue to a nightmare. The Elm Project files, glimpsed in the warehouse, listed children as subjects for genetic experiments, Malala's name marked transferred, a chilling hint at her fate. Her arm burned from the bullet graze, her cheek stung from the knife cut, but Malala's imager hazel eyes, her trusting smile drove her beyond pain. Serena, her journalist's fire undimmed, clutched a flare gun scavenged from the truck, her pepper spray gone, while Nelson, his hands still grease-stained from his mechanic days, gripped a wrench, guilt over his silence about Malala's abduction fueling his resolve. The enforcer's black van was out there, its headlights likely sweeping the roads, their wave-logoed jackets a constant threat. Michelle's mind raced. The journal's cryptic notes mentioned specimen drops near the old neighborhood, and Nelson's claim of seeing a van take Malala pointed to a local cover-up. "We need someone who saw more," Serena whispered, her eyes scanning the dark. Michelle nodded, recalling a name from the old case files. Clara, a retired schoolteacher who'd lived across from the Carters, rumored to have kept a diary of odd neighborhood activity. Clara was now in a rundown boarding house in Jakarta's outskirts, a lead worth risking. The boarding house was a mile away, a sagging structure in a maze of alleys, but every step invited danger. They moved, weaving through underbrush, thorns tearing Michelle's coat, the journal's pages crinkling against her ribs. The alleys buzzed with late-night hawkers, the air thick with fried dough and diesel, neon signs casting eerie glows. Clara's boarding house was a peeling relic, its windows grimy, a single bulb flickering above the door. Michelle knocked, her voice low. "Clara, it's about Malala, 2013. The door creaked, revealing a frail woman with sharp eyes, her hands clutching a shawl. "You're stirring ghosts," she warned. But Michelle held up Malala's photo, its edges worn. "You saw something, please." Clara hesitated, then nodded, but a shout pierced the Nightfall enforcers, their jackets flashing the ring's logo, charging from the shadows, knives and tasers glinting under streetlights. Clara yanked them inside, slamming the door, bolting it with a rusted chain, her voice urgent. "They've watched me since I talked to the cops." She pointed to a back window, a narrow escape. The enforcers battered the door, wood splintering, and Michelle's pulse roared. Clara shoved a diary at her, its pages dense with notes. Strange vans, Carter's son, kids vanishing. Malala's name appeared, dated the day she disappeared, seen near a vacant lot. The door buckled, and Michelle stuffed the diary into her coat, grabbing a fire poker from the hearth as Serena readied the flare gun, and Nelson raised his wrench. The enforcers burst in, tasers crackling, knives flashing. Michelle swung the poker, cracking one's wrist, his taser skidding, blood welling, while Serena fired the flare, its burst igniting a curtain, flames licking the walls. Nelson tackled another, his wrench smashing a knife from a hand, bone crunching. Clara threw a lamp, glass shattering, slowing a third, but the fourth grabbed Michelle, his knife at her throat, the blade cold. She stomped his foot, twisting free, and stabbed the poker into his thigh, blood spraying as he fell. They fled through the window, landing in a trash-strewn alley, the boarding house burning, smoke choking the air, enforcers coughing, their radios barking. Clara led them through a warren of shacks, her steps sure despite her age, residents peering from doorways drawn by the fire. A black SUV screeched into view, 5 more enforcers spilling out, rifles raised, bullets tearing through tin walls. Michelle dove behind a cart, bullets pinging off metal, and Serena sprayed a stolen pepper spray, blinding one, his rifle firing wild. Nelson hurled a brick, cracking a headlight, and Clara kicked over a barrel, oil spilling, slowing the pursuit. They sprinted to a canal, its water murky, reeds offering cover. A motorbike lay abandoned, and Serena hot-wired it, the engine sputtering to life. Michelle clung to her, Nelson and Clara squeezing on. As they sped along the canal's edge, the SUV's headlights closing in, ramming stalls, wood splintering. Michelle threw a rock, shattering a windshield, the SUV swerving into a ditch, tires screeching. They ditched the bike, wading through the canal, Clara's diary revealing a vacant lot used for drops, a site tied to the Elm Project, where Malala's trail might linger, a beacon in the dark of Michelle's relentless fight. Michelle's pulse roared in her ears, the muddy canal water soaking her legs as she, Serena, Nelson, and Clara crouched among the reeds, the boarding house's flames casting an eerie glow across Jakarta's slums, its smoke curling into the humid night. The hard drive, journal, USB, Clara's diary and Malala's photo weighed heavy in her torn coat, each a shard of hope for her daughter, lost since 2013 when her pink bicycle vanished, later found buried under concrete, with a child's drawing hand reaching from a window. The Elm Project files, glimpsed in the warehouse, revealed a network of genetic experiments on children, Malala's name marked transferred, while Clara's diary noted a vacant lot used for drops near the old neighborhood, a lead to the truth. Michelle's arm burned from the bullet graze, her cheek throbbed from the knife cut, but Malala's memory her pigtails, her laughter drove her past exhaustion. Serena, her journalist's resolve fierce, gripped a scavenged knife, her shoulder bruised from the boarding house fight, while Nelson, his mechanic's hands steady despite guilt over his silence, held a wrench, and Clara, frail but defiant, clutched a flashlight, her eyes sharp with fear and determination. The vacant lot, a mile away, was their target, rumored to hide a lab tied to Dr. Jonas Carter, the Elm Project's mastermind. Enforcers' flashlights swept the canal's edge, their black van's engine growling, the Ringswave logo a constant menace. Michelle's breath hitched. The diary's mention of strange vans near the Carter's house matched Nelson's story of Malala's abduction, pointing to a local conspiracy. They climbed from the canal, mud clinging to their shoes, and crept through a shanty town, its tin shacks flickering with firelight, the air thick with charcoal and sweat. The lot was a barren patch, overgrown with weeds, surrounded by rusted fences, but a hidden hatch, barely visible under debris, glinted in Clara's flashlight beam. Michelle's heart leaped. This was no ordinary lot. Nelson pried the hatch, metal screeching, revealing a concrete staircase descending into darkness, the air heavy with chemicals. They entered, the lab below a sterile nightmare, fluorescent lights buzzing, monitors displaying DNA sequences, cages along one wall, their bars stained with blood. Michelle's stomach churned. Malala had been here, a specimen. Serena hacked a computer, downloading filestist logs, subject profiles, and Carter's notes, naming Malala as Subject My, viable, transferred 2014. A photo flashed. Malala, sedated, her hazel eyes vacant, dated a year after her disappearance. Michelle's tears burned, hope and rage colliding, but alarms blared, red lights pulsing, steel shutters slamming down. 7 enforcers stormed in, rifles and tasers flashing, their wave logos stark against black jackets. Michelle dove behind a steel table, bullets ricocheting, shattering vials, chemicals hissing on the floor. Serena slashed an enforcer's arm with her knife, blood spraying, while Nelson swung his wrench, cracking a rifleman's knee, bones snapping. Clara threw a monitor, glass exploding, slowing a taser wielder, but an enforcer tackled Michelle, his baton raised, its metal glinting. She drove her screwdriver still bloodied from the shanty town into his thigh, blood welling, and twisted free, his scream echoing. Serena shot a fire extinguisher, foam blinding 2 enforcers, their shots going wild. Nelson parried a knife with his wrench, metal clanging but took a taser hit, convulsing, his wrench clattering. Michelle dragged him behind a crate, bullets sparking, and Clara, defying her age, hurled a vial, its chemicals igniting, flames licking the ceiling, smoke choking the air. They fought to a control room, Michelle prying a panel with the screwdriver, sparks flying as she disabled the shutters, lifting them. An enforcer lunged, his rifle butt slamming Serena's ribs, her gasp sharp, but she stabbed his hand, blood pooling, and they bolted up a service ladder, the lab burning below, enforcers coughing, their rifles silenced by smoke. At the surface, a black SUV screeched into the lot, 5 more enforcers spilling out, rifles firing, bullets tearing through weeds. Michelle hurled a rock, smashing a headlight, and Serena sprayed stolen pepper spray, blinding one, his rifle firing into the dirt. Nelson, recovering, kicked a crate, wood splintering, slowing the pursuit, and Clara pointed to a canal, its water a dark escape. They sprinted, wading through muck, reeds hiding them, the SUV's headlights sweeping above. A motorbike lay abandoned, and Serena hot-wired it, the engine roaring as they sped through the slums, the enforcer's van in pursuit, ramming stalls, wood flying. Michelle leaned, throwing a pipe, cracking the windshield, the van swerving into a ditch, tires screeching. They ditched the bike at a safe-houser shack where Elon, bandaged, waited with police. The files confirmed Carter's lab network, Malala's transfer a lead to a Bangkok buyer, a new trail in a fight Michelle would never abandon. Michelle's heart thundered like a storm, her breath jagged as she, Serena, Nelson, and Clara crouched in the humid shadows of Jakarta's slums, the canal's murky water still dripping from their clothes after their escape from the burning lab beneath the vacant lot. The hard drive, journal, USB, Clara's diary, E17 serum vial, and Malala's photo pressed against her chest, each a fragile beacon to her daughter, lost since 2013, when her pink bicycle vanished, later unearthed with her DNA and a haunting drawing of a hand reaching from a window. The Elm Project, Filestis logs, DNA profiles, and a 2014 photo of Malala, sedated but alive, confirmed a sinister network of genetic experiments, her transfer to a Bangkok buyer, the only lead to her fate. Michelle's arm burned from the bullet graze, her cheek stung from the knife cut, but Malala's hazel eyes, pleading in that video, fueled her beyond pain. Serena, her journalist's grit unyielding, gripped a scavenged pistol, her ribs bruised from the lab fight, while Nelson, his mechanic's hands bloodied but steady, held a wrench, guilt over his silence about Malala's abduction now, a fire for justice. Clara, her frail frame belying her resolve, clutched a flashlight, her diary's notes on strange vans, a key to the conspiracy. The Bangkok lead pointed to a fortified compound in the city's outskirts, a hub for the Elm Project's elite, where Dr. Jonas Carter's backers operated, per the lab's data. Elon, bandaged but fierce, joined them at a safe-houser shack reeking of fish and rice-a-cheese. Police backup delayed but en route, his pistol ready. Carter's network is crumbling, but this compounds the heart, he said, eyes hard. Michelle's resolve solidified. Malala's trail ran through that bunker, and she'd tear it apart. They allied with a group of survivors' former Elm Project victims, led by Aisha, a scarred woman with a machete, her crew armed with knives, pipes, and fury, their shared trauma a weapon. The plan: breach, search, expose. They stole a van, its engine rattling, and sped to the compound, a concrete fortress ringed by electrified fences, floodlights blazing, guarded by enforcers with rifles and tasers, their wave logos stark. Michelle's heart pounded as they cut through a fence, Aisha's bolt cutters snapping wire, and silenced a guard. Nelson's wrench cracking his skull, blood pooling silently. They slipped inside. The corridors a sterile maze, reeking of bleach, faint cries echoing from locked cells. Michelle led, her screwdriver bloodied from the lab gripped like a blade, Serena and Nelson flanking, Clara and Aisha's crew behind, Elon covering the rear. They ambushed 3 enforcers, Michelle stabbing one's thigh, blood spraying, while Serena shot another's shoulder, his taser skidding. Aisha's machete slashed a third's arm, her crew overwhelming him, but alarms screamed, red lights pulsing, steel shutters slamming down, trapping them. 12 enforcers flooded the hall, rifles blazing, bullets ricocheting off concrete, tasers crackling like lightning. Michelle dove behind a steel crate, bullets sparking, her screwdriver useless against gunfire. Serena fired, grazing an enforcer's leg, blood pooling, while Nelson swung his wrench, cracking a rifleman's jaw, bone splintering. Elon shot a taser wielder, dropping him convulsing, but took a bullet graze to the arm, blood soaking his sleeve, his grunt sharp. Aisha's crew fought with savage precision, knives flashing, 2 survivors falling, blood staining the floor. Michelle crawled to a control panel, prying it with the screwdriver, sparks flying as she shorted the shutters, lifting them. They pushed forward, finding a cell Block 50 children in cages, their faces gaunt, eyes pleading. Michelle's heart shattered, searching for Malala, but she wasn't there, only a log noting, Mai relocated, Bangkok, 2014. Tears burned, but a sealed lab door beckoned, and Nelson pried it, metal groaning, revealing a high-tech facility. Monitors, centrifuges, vials of E17 glowing faintly. Serena hacked a terminal, downloading Data Carter's logs, buyer lists, and a video. Malala, strapped to a table, her voice weak, dated 2015, pleading, "Mom." Michelle's sob choked her, hope flaring, but the compound shook, explosives rigged by the ring detonating, walls cracking, dust cascading. Enforcers stormed in, 10 more, rifles roaring. Michelle hurled a vial, its chemicals igniting, flames spreading, while Serena shot a gas canister, smoke billowing, blinding the enemy. Nelson tackled an enforcer, his wrench smashing a rifle, and Elon fired, dropping another, blood spraying. Aisha's crew freed the children, guiding them to a tunnel, but an enforcer grabbed Michelle, his knife at her ribs. She drove her elbow into his throat, breaking free, and stabbed his arm, blood welling. Clara threw her flashlight, cracking a guard's head, buying seconds. They ran, dragging the children, the lab collapsing, debris raining. An enforcer blocked the tunnel, rifle raised, but Michelle threw the wrench, cracking his skull, his body slumping. They emerged into the slums, the compound a fireball, police sirens wailing, backup arriving. The hard drive held Carter's buyer network, Malala's trail leading to Bangkok. A fight Michelle would never surrender, her daughter's voice a flame in the dark. Michelle's breath came in sharp gasps, her heart a relentless hammer as she clutched the hard drive, its cold metal a lifeline to Malala, her daughter lost since 2013 when her pink bicycle vanished, only to be unearthed 12 years later with her DNA and a haunting drawing a hand reaching from a window. The Elm Project, exposed through stolen files, was a grotesque network of genetic experiments on children, and the video of Malala, sedated but alive in 2015, found in the compound's burning lab, was a spark of hope in Michelle's unyielding grief. She, Serena, Nelson, Clara, and Elon sprinted through Jakarta's slums, the compound's collapse a fiery roar behind them, its smoke choking the humid night. The freed children 50 souls, their faces etched with fear but fierce followed, guided by Aisha's survivor crew, their footsteps a quiet defiance. The hard drive, journal, USB, Clara's diary, E17 serum vial, and Malala's photo weighed heavy in Michelle's torn coat, proof of a conspiracy that had shattered her world. Her arm burned from the bullet graze, her cheek throbbed from the knife cut, but Malala's pleading voice in that video, Mom, drove her past exhaustion. Serena, her ribs bruised but her journalist's fire blazing, gripped a scavenged pistol, the USB safe in her backpack, ready to broadcast the truth. Nelson, his mechanic's hands bloodied, clutched a crowbar, his guilt over staying silent about Malala's abduction, now a fuel for justice. Clara, frail yet unbowed, held a flashlight, her diary's clues a map to the ring's sins. Elon, his arm bandaged from a fresh graze, limped but pressed forward, his police radio crackling with promises of backup, his badge a flickering light in the dark. The hard drive's files pinpointed a Bangkok safe house, a penthouse, linked to Dr. Victor Carter, the Elm Project's architect, and a tie broker, Suthep, tied to Malala's 2014 transfer. Michelle's resolve was iron. Carter's network held Malala's fate, and she'd rip through steel to find her. They stole a battered sedan, its engine coughing, and sped through Jakarta's neon-lit streets, the slums fading into skyscrapers, the children left with Aisha's crew at a safe house. Serena uploaded the hard drive's data to secure servers, her broadcast hitting global news headlines screaming, "Elm Project exposed," naming Carter's elite backers, sparking raids in Singapore, Dubai, and Manila. A black SUV screeched behind, enforcers firing, bullets shattering the sedan's rear window, glass raining. Elon swerved, tires screaming, and Michelle leaned out, hurling a tire iron, cracking the SUV's windshield, forcing it to veer into a market stall, fruit flying. Nelson fired a flare gun, its red burst blinding an enforcer, his shot going wild, while Clara threw a bottle, glass shattering, slowing the pursuit. They ditched the sedan in a parking garage, sprinting to the airport, Elon's badge bluffing them past security, but an enforcer in plainclothes spotted them, drawing a taser. Michelle swung her screwdriver, stabbing his hand, blood spraying, while Serena tased his chest, dropping him convulsing. They boarded a red-eye to Bangkok, hearts pounding, the hard drive a ticking bomb. In Bangkok's chaotic streets, they tracked Suthep's penthouse, a glass tower guarded by enforcers. Michelle, armed with a knife, and Serena, with a taser, led the breach, Elon and Nelson behind, Clara's diary guiding their hunt. They ambushed the lobby, Michelle slashing a guard's arm, blood welling, while Serena tased another, his rifle clattering. Nelson cracked a baton with his crowbar, bone snapping, and Elon shot a taser, wielder's leg, blood pooling. They reached the penthouse, its marble floors gleaming, and found Suthep, a wiry man packing files, his face ashen. "You're too late," he sneered, drawing a pistol, but Michelle tackled him, the shot grazing a chandelier, crystals shattering. Serena cuffed him, hacking his laptop, downloading data buyer lists, transfer logs, and a 2016 note. My, viable, Chiang Mai Clinic. Malala was alive then, used for E17 trials, her location a new lead. Alarms blared, steel shutters descending, as 10 enforcers stormed in, rifles roaring, tasers crackling. Michelle fired Suthep's pistol, grazing an enforcer's shoulder, blood spraying, while Elon wrestled another, his gun skidding. Serena hurled a vase, porcelain exploding, and Nelson swung his crowbar, cracking a rifle, metal bending. Clara threw a chair, wood splintering, buying time. The shutters trapped them, but Michelle pried a vent, sparks flying, and they crawled through, enforcers firing, bullets sparking off metal. They reached a fire escape, descending as police swarmed below, Interpol alerted by Serena's broadcast. Suthep, cuffed, revealed the Chiang Mai Clinic's address, his voice trembling under Michelle's knife. The files went live, arrests rippling Carter's backers, politicians, tycoons, while Michelle's eyes fixed on Chiang Mai, Malala's trail a flame she'd follow to the end, no matter the blood. Michelle's heart was a clenched fist, her breath shallow as she stood on the edge of Chiang Mai's bustling night market, the humid air thick with the scent of grilled satay and jasmine, her eyes scanning for a glimpse of Malala, her daughter lost since 2013 when her pink bicycle vanished, only to be found buried under concrete with her DNA and a haunting drawing of a hand reaching from a window. The hard drive, journal, USB, Clara's diary, E17 serum vial, and Malala's photo weighed heavy in her battered coat, relics of a relentless fight that had exposed the Elm Project, a grotesque network of genetic experiments on children, orchestrated by Dr. Victor Carter, now in custody after a brutal penthouse raid in Bangkok. Serena, her ribs bandaged but her journalist zeal unbroken, clutched her laptop, its broadcasts of the project's ledger-naming tycoons, officials, and bias-igniting global raids, dismantling the ring's empire. Nelson, his mechanic's hand scarred, leaned on a scavenged crowbar, his guilt over staying silent about Malala's abduction transformed into a quiet strength. Elon, his arm still bleeding from a bullet graze, coordinated with Interpol, his badge a beacon of resolve, while Clara, frail but fierce, held a flashlight, her diary's clues a cornerstone of their crusade. The 2016 note from Bangkok's penthouse, revealing Malala's transfer to a Chiang Mai clinic for E17 trials, was a flickering hope, though her trail had gone cold. Michelle's arm throbbed, her cheek scarred from the knife, but Malala's image edated, pleading in a 2015 video burned, brighter than pain. They'd evaded enforcers in Bangkok, but Chiang Mai's clinic, raided days ago, was empty. Malala relocated, her fate a shadow. A tip from a local informant, Suthep's confession, under pressure pointed to a safe house in the city's outskirts, a last bastion of the Elm Project's remnants. They stole a battered pickup, its engine rattling, and sped through Chiang Mai's neon-lit streets, the market's chaos fading into rice fields. The safe house, a concrete bunker hidden among bamboo groves. Enforcers' headlights loomed, a black SUV trailing, bullets shattering the pickup's tailgate, glass raining. Michelle hurled a wrench, cracking the SUV's windshield, while Serena fired her pistol, grazing a tire, the vehicle swerving into a ditch. Nelson threw a flare, its red burst blinding pursuers, and Elon swerved, dodging a taser shot, prongs sparking on asphalt. They ditched the pickup, sprinting to the safe house, its razor-wire fence glinting under moonlight. Aisha's survivor crew, summoned from Jakarta, joined them, their knives and pipes ready, their scars a shared vow. They cut through the wire, Michelle's screwdriver bloodied from countless fights prying a gate, and silenced a guard. Nelson's crowbar cracking his skull, blood pooling. The compound's corridors were sterile, reeking of antiseptic, locked cells, echoing with faint cries. Michelle led, her knife gripped, Serena and Nelson flanking, Clara and Aisha's crew behind, Elon covering the rear. They ambushed 4 enforcers, Michelle slashing one's arm, blood spraying, while Serena tased another, his rifle clattering. Aisha's machete felled a third, and Elon shot a taser, wielder's leg, blood welling. Alarms blared, shutters slamming, as 10 enforcers stormed in, rifles roaring, tasers crackling. Michelle dove behind a crate, bullets sparking, her knife useless against gunfire. Serena fired, grazing an enforcer's shoulder, blood pooling, while Nelson swung his crowbar, cracking a rifle, bone snapping. Elon wrestled a guard, his gun skidding, but took a baton hit, gasping. Aisha's crew fought, 2 falling, blood-staining concrete, their sacrifice searing Michelle's heart. She pried a control panel, sparks flying, lifting shutters, and they pushed to a lab, finding records. Malala, Subject Mai, tested until 2018, then decommissioned. A lie contradicted by a 2019 sighting in a Chiang Mai orphanage. Michelle's hope surged, but explosives shook the compound, walls cracking, dust choking the air. Enforcers charged, 8 more, rifles blazing. Michelle hurled a vial, its chemicals igniting, flames spreading, while Serena shot a gas canister, smoke blinding the enemy. Nelson tackled a guard, his crowbar smashing a rifle, and Elon fired, dropping another, blood spraying. Aisha freed caged children, guiding them to a tunnel, but an enforcer grabbed Michelle, his knife at her throat. She stomped his foot, twisting free, and stabbed his arm, blood welling. Clara threw her flashlight, cracking a skull, buying seconds. They escaped, dragging the children, the safe house collapsing, police sirens rising. In Chiang Mai, Michelle traced the orphanage, finding records. Malala, adopted in 2019, now 18, living with a foster family in Hanoi. Michelle flew there, heart pounding, and found her a young woman with Malala's hazel eyes, her memory fragmented but alive. Trials in The Hague convicted Carter and his backers, the Elm Project erased. Michelle's foundation, funded globally, aided victims, her pain eased through therapy with Malala, their bond rebuilt. Serena's reports, Nelson's training, Aisha's rescues, and Elon's investigations forged a legacy of justice. Malala's drawing a light that outshone the dark. From a buried bike's clue to shattering a sinister experiment, this tale of loss and redemption gripped us all. Thanks for listening. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications for our latest heart-stopping stories. Join us for the next adventure.